Android or iPhone, what is the best option for your next smartphone? Linux? What about a Clear phone? Now, yesterday I did a video on Clear OS, but I'm not talking about Clear OS. I'm talking about literally a phone you could see through, as thin as a playing card and see through. Might sound a little bit like Minority Report. Are they safe? Are they secure? Are they the future? We're gonna break down the best phone for you. Crypto phones, smartphones, burner phones. Let's get into phones and operation. Phones. All right, so you've probably seen these phones right here. They're see-through. You can literally see through them. Now, this looks like an early 2000s spy movie. This looks like James Bond. This looks like Minority Report. This looks like Mission Impossible. No, it's actually possible, and it's something that a lot of phone companies have been working on for a while. A lot of high-end tech companies have been working on for a while, and this is something that you need to take note of because it's coming down the lane right now as we speak. Now, what you need to understand about these phones are there's some serious fundamental issues, and I'm not talking about privacy concerns, being transparent and being able to see through them. They always take a lot of liberties in the marketing material. I did a video yesterday talking about modular phones, which I think is the future, and I think for privacy advocates, modular phones is the key. I will definitely be talking more about that because that is really important to have the flexibility of an open source modular phone. Now, sounds too good to be true, and it's a really tough problem to solve. Obviously, there's a handful of companies trying to solve it, and of course, we have Linux phones and other phones that are in the burner phone category that show a lot of promise. Now, for standard Android, those are some of the worst phones you could ever get unless you have Graphene OS. I do not recommend Android phones ever, with the small exception of Graphene OS, but even that is pushing it. Apple is definitely better than Android for most things when it comes to a basic business level phone. That's all I recommend an iPhone for, is a business level phone. Have a couple apps on there like Signal and Sudo. Don't try to go overly private on your iPhone because your iPhone's fundamental core is never going to allow you to have complete privacy. There's a lot of settings you can change, which we've talked about that here on Privacy X. Privacy is a right, and it's right that needs to be protected. Go to privacyxproject.com and check out more on this. We've done a lot of videos over there where you guys can check out. But what I do want to say on this topic is Android and Apple are both not the most private, secure companies. It's not in their ethos as a business, in their business model. So you need to fully understand there's no way to make these perfectly private. Now, perfectly private is pretty much an oxymoron, and the best way to have a 100% privacy phone is don't have a phone at all. What's the next best? Airplane mode, Faraday bags, things like that. The next best would be a modular phone, right? Actually having a modular phone and an open source OS that you can control, or you can set up that fits your needs. That would be great, but that's not in the best interest of these big tech companies. Now, when you look at these clear phones and these transparent phones, what is the reason for this? Well, you already know that the tracking capabilities on an iPhone and Android, we're going to use them as the standard because that's what most people have. You look at most phones, it's not Linux, it's not BlackBerry, it's not a burner phone like you see in Jason Bourne. There's people like me who have burner phones, I think, on a regular, but I'm that weird guy on the internet, right? The average person is just walking around with a GPS tracking device at all times. And look, as an entrepreneur, I do as well. I have an iPhone. I always have the latest iPhone, but it's very compartmentalized. It's very strictly run. I've talked about this, so I have 4 phones. It's really important to understand this process. Now, the capabilities of GPS tracking and triangulation on these phones takes it to a whole nother level. We're basically changing the core formula of these phones to allow people to add a level of convenience that has never been seen before. So let me explain. What these companies sell it as is kind of like when your iPhone is like, hey, 5 minutes to your destination or 12 minutes to your gym. It's like, how do you know where I'm going? Because they recognize patterns, they bring all those patterns back in their algorithm, and they spit out the most likely outcome, and they're usually right. They're usually scary right. And it could be a place you haven't been to in 3 months, but they broke down the area, your driving pattern, the direction you're going, and they're like, hey, you're X amount of, it's crazy what these phones know. In the background, these phones process mountains of data, mountains on you, everything you do. And even when you turn off a lot of these things like I do, and hopefully you do as well, you can only turn off so much. There are some things that are baked in, GPS chips, Wi-Fi, and even if you turn a lot of these things off, there's still triangulation things they could do. There's still predictive algorithms that they use. There's still a lot of things baked in no matter what. And even if you turn the phone off, there's things the phone can do. It is literally endless what they've baked into these phones nowadays. And of course, iPhones being an example, you can't do anything. They stopped letting you take batteries out of phones long ago, and most of these phones you couldn't work on unless you're some expert tech, and even that's getting tougher and tougher to do. It's ridiculous. So they want this to be linked to you at all times. When we go a step further with these transparent phones, which I will never, ever buy under any circumstances, by the way, I would literally build my own phone before I did that. I would go back to using ham radios before I did. Like, there's no chance. And I know I'm going to be in a minority because what they're going to do is they're going to bring these out and they're going to sell you a bag of features that is next level. Holograms and holographic crap, and you'll be able to set it down and it can project the screen. They're supposed to, they've got ones that they're talking about releasing in the next 5 years. They can project things on the wall, and it can predictively know, like, so when you walk through your smart home, which is a very bad idea. We talked about that with the Amazon Sidewalk and the new Skynet that Amazon just launched. Check out that video as well. That video is extremely important. If you don't understand what Amazon just did, probably the most un-American thing that has ever happened by any tech company, which is a hard bar to climb because all these companies are taking your privacies and your freedoms at an alarming rate in the auspice of, wow, we're giving you some really sweet, awesome features like, what's the best local bread shop? Like, that's super important. Or your phone can automatically tell you the number to the closest Whole Foods. You need that for sure. And so that's what they're doing. They're under the disguise of adding all this crazy convenience. They're taking endless liberties. So these phones are going to go to another level because the way they're designed and the way they're developed, they've been working on them since like 2010. It's supposed to be some military grade glass, and some other chemicals built in. They haven't really released a lot about them because they're supposed to come out, like I said, in the next 3 to 5 years. Possibly. You never know. These companies always give wild projections, kind of like everything Elon Musk has always predicted has been many, many years late, but he does deliver, so you got to give him credit. The guy does deliver. Same thing with a lot of these other tech companies, but it's crazy what they're looking at, and the amount of tracking these phones can do. It basically becomes a chip. It is your chip. And then the level after that is just inject the chip and it can holograph a phone right out of your palm. That's the next step. So we're 2 steps away from literally the mark of the beast. We are 2 steps away from literally the mark of the beast. I don't even know what else to say. That's literally where we are. And that chip, and I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about the current chip. I'm talking about the chip where they can implant your phone and then it can project. And again, sounds crazy, sounds bananas. But the fact is they already have prototypes. That's the crazy part. They literally already have prototypes. So they've taken Google Glass. Have you ever tried Google Glass? I tried Google Glass in like 2013. They've taken that and instead of putting these goofy glasses on, they can project it. And so now it becomes an implant, and Elon Musk is already working on Neuralink. Then you're no longer a person at that point. You're not a person, right? You've got Neuralink wires in your brain. You've got a phone projecting out of your arm, and you're like, bro. And it would sound crazy if it wasn't actually happening as we speak. By 2030, we're going to have this. It's facts. A lot of you guys forget that the average person had never heard of a smartphone in 2011. It wasn't even a thing. It wasn't even a thing for most people in 2011, a smartphone. 10 years later, it's rare for a teenager not to have a smartphone. How did that happen in a short 10 years? Wait till you see where we are 10 years from now. We will have already had these translucent phones that become a literal digitalized tracking chip. And it's not just going to be a phone. It's going to take over. There's already states talking about embedding your license, your driver's license into it. And there's already states talking about embedding your passport into it as far as the federal government. But they've got to get kind of kind of like what they had to do with the Clear ID. They had to get kind of a universal consensus. Then, of course, your bank information, they will go kind of like how we all went paperless back in the day. They're going to go cardless, and everything's going to be digital. And then we're already implemented the Fed coin. I did a video recently talking about how the Fed coin is a real thing now. The Fed launched their own digital currency to ultimately replace the dollar. So we've got injected phones in our arm with digital driver's license, digital passport, digital money. The dollar's gone, the driver's license is gone, the debit and credit cards are gone. Everything is digitalized, and then we make it small, put it in your arm, projects. It's over. It's over. That's literally the mark of the beast. I don't know what else to tell you. I wish like I was some crazy guy on the internet making this up. But the reality is, it's everywhere. They're literally openly doing this, massive media about this, and they're hyping it up like this is great. And hundreds of millions of people can't wait. They can't wait to have this universal card phone life. It's basically your life on a translucent card. Sold as a phone to get you with the device you're comfortable with and familiar with. 10 years ago, you probably never heard of a smartphone. 10 years from now, you'll never see a smartphone again because it will literally be under your skin and you say something and it pops up. And your whole world is right there. All your money, all your assets, your keys, if you want to talk to somebody, and then who controls it? Who made it? Who controls it? Who can turn it on and off? What are the privacy features on? There are none. There are none. So this is where we're going. This is a very serious issue, and most people don't care. Nobody cares. They're just like, oh yeah, dude. Yes, I get this sweet phone, you tell me? I get to be able to have extra features? More features? Well, enjoy your more features because, I mean, you got to be kidding me, but this is where we keep going. I can't believe what they just did with the Corporate Transparency Act. I can't believe what they just did with the Fed coin, and nobody seems to care. Everyone's like, oh, cool. Is there a rebellion? Is there people rising up? No, nowhere, never, not at all. Zero. Zero people. I mean, I'm talking about this every day, but nobody cares because I have a small voice on a small channel, and I'm not the only one. There's other people in the privacy community and the entrepreneurship community and that are talking up. It's not just me. There's a handful of us, but our voices are tiny. Nobody cares. So anyway, that's what I got to say about it. Let me know what you think because I wish I was wrong on more. Like I wish I did a video about this stuff and I was dead wrong. I was just a laughing stock and everyone came back and said, you loser, you were wrong. I wish, but this not happened. I talked about crypto and I talked about the Bitcoin crash 2 months before it happened. I got hundreds of people go to that video and be like, dude, I can't believe you predicted this. I tried to tell you. I talked about the Corporate Transparency Act before it happened. People said that's never going to pass. It passed. I tried to tell you. And I talked about dozens of other things before they happened. I talked about what was going to happen with Coinbase like 3 weeks before it happened. I talked about what was going to happen with the Fed coin. I talked about the launch of the Fed coin 1 month almost to the day before they launched it. And I had hundreds of people in emails and comments say, tinfoil hat, you're crazy. And then a month later, the Fed announced the launch of their digital currency. It isn't because I'm so smart and I'm a mind reader and I can see the future. No, it's because I literally look at the information that's in front of me. But I know I'm not alone, but I'm in a tiny little minority of people who actually care, which is shocking. Shocking. Anyway, appreciate you checking out this video. If you haven't already, subscribe, give it a thumbs up. Let people know where we're going so maybe somebody cares. If enough people actually cared at one point, We wouldn't keep going down this road. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.